Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Following Films podcast. I'm your host, Chris Maynard. Today's episode is something really special. I had the chance to sit down with Renn Hawkey, a musician and producer you probably know from his work with Deadsy. But this time, we're talking about something brand new, the Yagas, a deeply personal project that blends music, myth, and mood in powerful ways. Their debut album, Midnight Minuet, was just released, and it's haunting, cinematic, and full of depth. Even more compelling, the band is fronted by none other than Vera Farmiga. That's right, acclaimed actress and now spellbinding voice at the center of the Yagas. Her vocals bring a hypnotic, otherworldly energy to the record. In our conversation, Renn opens up about the creative process behind Midnight Minuet, collaborating with Vera, and how the project channels folklore, emotion, and atmosphere into something truly unforgettable. So whether you're already listening to the album or just curious about this unexpected musical journey, you're in the right place. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you, Renn?
Doing good. How you doing, Christopher?
Good, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I appreciait it.
Of course. You got a Sunburst Strat in the back?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
That was my first guitar.
Well, this is my pandemic purchase. I got back into playing from when I was a teenager and just started playing again. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. So that was my first guitar also, but rebuying it 15 years, 20 years later.
Still have mine.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
I got the Alien Workshop sticker, which was a skateboard company.
Of course, I remember. Yeah.
90s, early 90s. Yeah, still lives.
Dude, that's great, man. It's a fun guitar. It treated me well. So, but thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. So listened to a ton of your music over the weekend, kind of going through songs over and over again. One of the things that I really loved about the band is the way it genre hops, that it's not really pigeonholed into one genre. And when I was a kid, I'm 48. So when I was younger, music was very much defined and you had narrow paths that you could exist in. And so if you were in punk rock and you had a solo, people would talk shit. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. I'm 51, man. And you lived and died by what you listened to.
Yeah.
And there was no cross-pollination, whatsoever. Although until I started skateboarding is when I discovered, that it was kind of okay. Some of it.
It was weird because skateboarding in like the late 80s, early 90s, you would find kids that listened to like a lot of West Coast, East Coast punk rock, like either hardcore, the kind of the early pop punk stuff like Descendants and all the SST bands, or indie hip hop, like those early hip hop bands. Those were the two things that I would hear a lot when around skateboarding.
Absolutely. And it worked well. It all made sense together.
It did. It was, and I think a lot of people didn't realize it, but the fashion was very similar. The look amongst that, the baggy pants and all those kinds of things, it had a very similar attitude, and it was two worlds that felt like, I think from the outside, they were very, very distant, but they're actually very close in a lot of ways. They were people looking for a family outside of themselves a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah. But, up until that point, I had older siblings who dragged me to, to shows and stuck me in the side door and brought me to clubs. And I had a lot of exposure to music, but I didn't really define myself and what I was personally into until I was about like 8th grade. That's when I was,
same here.
The Misfits, I think, really kind of turned things around for me. Like in 7th grade, I was strictly like new wave. In like 6th grade, I was like, what was I guess I was listening to like kind of dance pop music, whatever was on the radio. And then the Misfits just kind of opened it up for me. I don't know why, but like something about it just really appealed.
That's funny because all the stuff that you're mentioning right now, I can hear in your band, in the Yagas. I can hear a little bit of Susie and the Banshees, a little bit of Concrete Blonde. But then I can also hear like some industrial stuff going on in there. There's definitely some metal stuff and it's all playing together in a way that I think really, really works seamlessly, and they complement each other. It feels like they're in conversation instead of this is something where we're just going out in this direction. It feels like a natural build to these other genres.
Yeah. And I wish I could be like, oh, well, the metal comes from the drummer and this comes from the bass player. But the reality is that like, we've all been collecting music and influences for quite some time now in the band,
Yeah.
and across the board, it's everybody's into like, very different things, but there's a lot of that, like, there's certainly a through line of like metal. I'm probably, me and the bass player Mike are probably more new wave leaning,
Yeah.
right? Whereas Mark, the guitar player, he's very into like Perfect Circle, but
Sure.
also Meshuggah
Yeah, of
and
course.
Bond and The Edge, you too, So and you hear all of that stuff in there, and it works. It just works.
And even there's one of your songs that reminded me of The Cure. And it's just the way when your synth part comes in, it has this slow build in it, and it's just really, really beautiful. But then by the end of it, it has when the drums hit at the end of the song, it has this very sort of almost progressive metal sound. And
Yeah.
it just I really dig that. I really enjoyed that.
I
So
mean, the Crying Room, that
yes, The
song.
Crying Room. Yes.
That was
Sorry.
yeah, that was our first single too.
Yeah.
And what an interesting and strange choice for like, hey, this is what we sound like. Vocals don't come in until a minute and a half.
Yeah.
You have this like nebulous keyboard atmospheric stuff happening over these like layered guitars with this like tribal drums,
Hmm.
and then the song has three parts that never repeat,
Yep.
you know? And for some reason people responded to it. And I gotta credit Mark, the guitar player. He had a real vision for how that song was to unfold. And same with Vera. Again, the song almost behaves, you know, what's the word? Not filmically or cinemagraphically, but
Sure.
as a three-act structure. You have this intro kind of like, you're on the hero's journey, right? This introduction of, what is the problem? And then this explosion and this revelation of the problem as like,
Hmm.
act two, which is this big cry that happens. And then this come down, this act three resolve that happens in the song, and it's just, I don't know, kind of worked.
It reminds me a little bit of Queen's Under Pressure, where at the end when Bowie
Yeah.
comes in and just starts building and building and building, but your entire song is built on that trajectory where it's just slowly ramping up, ramping up, ramping up, and then by the time it gets to the top, the floor drops out. And because you
Yeah.
haven't heard a repeat, you kind of expect it to keep going, 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 and so normally it's I think at the end of the first verse, you would expect it to go into the kind of the harder part, and then but it doesn't. It just keeps slowly building,
Yeah.
and then the floor comes out, and it's so unexpected. It was such a powerful song, and it has that almost theatricality to it in a way that is
Yeah.
just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, there's something kind of primal about it. Like if you think about when you cry, right? There's just kind of a
Mm.
build up to it. And then you have this like your blubbering moment, and then you come down from it. You don't go back to the blubbering moment. You know what I mean? You're at the end, you're you're coming down for it, from it, and then you find a pint of ice cream.
Well, and okay, other thing I have to mention because I was unfamiliar with it
Yeah.
was the Slavic Yaga. It was something I had
Yeah.
never heard of before, and so it made your album cover make sense. And so for people that are
Yeah.
unfamiliar, I think you should look this up to understand what the album cover means because I thought, what a random ass cover for an album. Like I have no idea. It's a very interesting and evocative drawing that you have, but it's actually folklore, this name and the
Vera,
image.
Vera drew that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, there's some people that just have so much talent that it's almost frustrating. That's
I think it pisses you off a little bit, right?
a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like but I will say, like, I think talent only gets you so far,
True.
right? You do need fortitude and perseverance, confidence, and just grit and work ethic. She has
Yeah.
that too. A lot of really talented people who just aren't doing what they should be doing, right?
Sure.
And there's that, of course, the social component to it, but like how many great guitar players that are working, at guitar shops, and not to get down on that at all, but like that wasn't the ultimate dream, I don't think, at the beginning. And there's just so many things that go into, the alchemy of success, right? But anyways, I just wanted to highlight her because like I didn't know she could draw really until like 4 years ago. And we've been together 21 years.
Oh
You know,
wow.
so
So
she surprises me a lot. And she surprised me with the singing too. Like you people would assume that she's singing around the household. Like that's not been the case. She didn't start singing until 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. She sang.
Really?
Yeah, she had to do some like music theater thing in Bates Motel where her
Okay.
character does a stage performance. Norma Bates like gets bored in like season 3, and she's like, "I'm gonna do
Sure.
music." And so, I think she proved herself that she could do it, but like, the need to do it didn't come until a couple years ago.
Wow. And so when you hear her sing, is that when you start saying, okay, maybe we should start doing something together at that point? Or
Well, let me backtrack because you did ask about the Yagas, and I
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah. Sorry. Yes, yes,
explain.
please.
Yeah, and then I'll get back. I'll come back to that. I promise. Origin story. Okay. Well, we had searched for many names, but they're all taken. I don't know if you've ever like tried to name anything these days. It's impossible.
Sure.
The name didn't come until the record had been recorded. Much like would you name a painting, or a child before it's born or it's finished? You know what I mean? It just you kind of it for us. It didn't happen until the record was done. We were able to look at this body of work and be like, and then it just came to Vera. She grew up in the Ukrainian diaspora in
Okay.
America. Um, so a lot of her references were from the old country, as told to her by her uncles at night, giving her like nightmare fuel, like to get the kids to
Yeah.
go to sleep, about Baba Yaga, who is this shape shifting, I guess, old lady, we could say witch,
Yeah.
but shape shifting meaning, um, oftentimes she's portrayed as someone who fries and eats children,
Yeah.
or somebody who accompanies the Grim Reaper, who once he's taken the soul, she devours the body. But she's also a lover and a nurse and a helper to lost people in the woods, and like there's a lot going on there. And the name just made perfect sense for us. I think that the name the Yagas, just the spirit of who she is as a shapeshifter, gave us permission
Mm.
to blend genres and to bend and just kind of mix it all in a big cauldron and just here you go. You know?
Yeah. And it's something that does work because the band is theatrical at times. It has that style. Her voice has a quality to it that has a theatricality that, not unlike you were talking about the Misfits, it has that sort of thing that's bigger than
Yeah.
traditional rock music, where it is almost.
Also from New Jersey. Vera's from New Jersey.
Oh, well, what part of New Jersey is she from? I didn't realize that.
She's from Hunterdon County, which is
Okay.
mid
Mid New Jersey. Yeah. I used to live in
mid
Northeast New
rural.
Jersey. So,
Oh, you did?
yeah.
Yeah, New Jersey's got a lot. I mean, first of all, Typo Negative's also from, not to mention the obvious like Springsteen and Bon Jovi, but like
Yep.
Typo Negative is a Jersey band. And Misfits,
And there was all the sort of the third wave emo bands for some reason seemed to pop out of New Jersey, which was really like it was Simple Plan and all that like class of bands seemed to come out of there for some
Right,
reason, which
right.
was really strange. Bouncing Souls, one of my a great band
Oh,
from New Jersey.
really?
Yeah, they're a New Jersey band. I think I'm almost positive. Now I say that. I
Where are
thought they
you
were.
now?
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, you
So
are. Oh, how's that?
I love it. It's great.
Where are you?
I live in just north of Tucson it's Marana, but so just the suburbs of Tucson. So in
I
between.
love it out there. I
Oh, it's
love,
great. I absolutely adore it. I could not imagine living anywhere else now.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, okay, now that it's going to be 100 degrees for the next, 3.5 months, I could
Yeah.
imagine living somewhere else, but 9 months out of the year, it's amazing. It's a
I
wonderful
don't
place to live.
I don't mind that. I love that heat.
So where are you guys at?
We're in New York.
New York? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that's, I mean,
winters here are rough. I'm not gonna lie. And it's great to have little projects like this to focus on, where like,
yeah.
you know, going outside. I don't know. This was a rough winter, so
Yeah.
I'm really glad to have had this project like as a distraction.
How
But
long was the recording process for you?
so when we started the band, there was no real intention, right? It was just like a couple of guys who were going to get together to write a song because, we're all friends and we all had children in this music school up
Hmm.
in Woodstock. And we decided to get together to just try a song. And the songs just literally just started to fall out of us. which was very rare. And at first, Vera was not going to be the singer. She was just going to be one of the keyboard players. She's a amazing pianist. Um, and I think that Mark, who's the guitar player, he and I were just like writing something in like the living room, and she was hovering in the doorway to the
Mhm.
kitchen and like listening in. And what do you got? You know?
Yeah.
And she just, like everything, just throws herself into it, you know? And she's she's a storyteller, and it's going to come out in whether she's acting, singing, or illustrating, or some other, medium or outlet that I haven't thought of yet. But a very creative individual, and it can't help but ooze out of her. So
Yeah.
it's great.
And so then you didn't start with that intention when she
Yeah.
starts jumping into the band then, and when did you realize, okay, that we have something here? This is a kind of, this is something we should go run with.
The first song was called I Am, and I personally felt like this doesn't feel like a run of the mill, just like space jam, like which happens often when you get together with
Of
people.
course.
You
Yeah.
know, like that was fun, but it's not going anywhere. Like it started to form up pretty quickly, and dynamically, it was interesting to me.
Hmm.
Uh, and I thought this is worth pursuing, and then we had this like crazy bridge, and she's like speaking in like another language that she's like making up on the spot. Um, and like, Georgian monk kind of humming and, in the
Hmm.
background. It was just like, to me, I was like, I was confused by it, but I also was like really enjoying it. It was like, wait, what is this? Is this like, is this metal? This doesn't sound metal. This
Yeah.
guitar sound metal. That drumming sounds a bit metal, but it sometimes this also feels a little bit like it's like from Europe.
Yeah.
And I'm like throwing like, analog vintage synths in there and like really throwing the whole thing off. And it just formed up in this interesting way. I was just like, this is cool. And then like the next song just like came pretty like a few weeks after that because, we're all older. We don't have 5 days a week to rehearse and
Of
write
course.
write words. We'd get together for a few hours on, every other weekend. And the album was written very quickly. And when we decided to go into the studio, we said, oh, we'll just, we're just going to do 7 songs. So we booked two
Mhm.
days and we ended up recording 13 songs in those 2 days. So,
Wow.
but
That's,
for the majority of the music, the foundations of the music,
yeah.
meaning the bass and most of the guitar and all the drums, keyboards and vocals, I do afterwards.
Okay.
Usually with Vera in our basement, like she stands, she stands right here. Here's her bike, and there's my world. It's very simple, and that's
That,
it.
that's amazing. That's fantastic that you get to
Yeah,
do that. And
yeah.
what's it like to have a creative endeavor with somebody that's a partner?
This isn't the first thing that we've done together. We've produced a movie together. We've done a documentary
Yeah.
together. We have a couple of TV show ideas in the also in the can or in development. We have built 2 homes together, and we have a commercial real estate project a hospitality project that we're working on,
Oh man. Wow.
which is a historic, sustainable project. We're redeveloping and repurposing a old granary barn complex,
Okay.
and that's really exciting. It's been 4 years in the making of planning process. So, but we're going to be breaking ground hopefully in August.
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
There's with all
And we
those
made
other
2 kids together,
how old are your kids, by the way?
16 and 14.
Okay, yeah, I got a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, so you're kind of is not you're a little bit further along than I am, but not
Yeah.
that much. So I'm already feeling like an empty nester, and I've had these kids in my house for over a decade now, and I can't imagine the house without that energy. It's so hard for me to imagine
Yeah,
at this point.
it's pretty hard. It's pretty horrifying to imagine,
Yeah,
children are just such a blessing, and then I guess you'll have a few years of quiet, and then maybe grandkids will come into the picture,
yeah.
you know. I mean, I just adore it. I mean, they're my best friends. the
Yeah.
kids. We are very, very tight as a family. Also, Vera grew up with 7 siblings, and so did I. So
Wow.
yeah, we really like to huddle as a family and like do things together. So
I was out to dinner with some friends last night, and there was two people that were, I'm one of five, the other person was one of six,
yeah.
and then there was two people that were both only children. And we came to this thing that we were wondering if there's an association where the people that came from large families really appreciate like human touch, cuddling, nestling, like getting in a dog pile essentially. And that's like a comforting thing. The only children were both like, no, just get out of my space. I don't appreciate that.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't like that.
very much so.
Okay.
Very so. Um, yeah, I'm like, I get frustrated with people who are just single. Like, wow, you could have used an older sister.
Well, having an older brother for so many things was helpful, but one area specifically was just music. There was somebody that was already finding cool music ahead of me that was able to navigate those paths. So the time that I spent listening to radio stuff was very limited because I had an older brother who was like, no, that's garbage. You need to listen to this, and so
Yeah.
pointed me in the right direction.
I was a little bit young for my older brother who was getting into cool stuff. He was like into windsurfing. He had a red Acura Integra with like tinted windows.
Oh, those were great.
Yeah. And he had this like some crazy hairdo and like love new wave. And so, when I was old enough, like they
Mhm.
would start taking me out, but he was 4 or 5 years older than me. So, um, but for a long period of time, I was like in the middle age where I was like too young to hang out with the older kids in the family, but I was a little too old and I'd get frustrated with my younger siblings, and I hated to
Yeah.
be with them. I was so eager to grow up and I will say growing up with that amount of, not that this is what your podcast is about at
No,
all, but
no, I'm
I,
loving this. So
I couldn't wait to distance myself and find my path,
mm,
to be an individual, only to then return later and have so much pride in coming from a large family, and wearing it as a badge.
it's that weird combination of wanting to be the center of attention because you never are, but also wanting your own space because you never had that. So
Right.
it's this duality that I think exists in people that come from large families, where it's a
Yeah. Vera grew up sharing a bedroom with like 3 other kids. At least I had like one brother as a roommate. She did like, sorry, I got to put this on uh, focus. Somebody's, here we go. Pardon.
no, you're good, man.
Oh wait, did I lose you?
No, we're
there you
here. I'm here.
Sorry. Oh,
You're good.
I got click happy with my windows. Anyway, yeah. Back to
So
music.
yeah. No, so with the album, what has the response been like so far?
Response has been great. It could have gone, as you know, you have an actor for a singer. That's ripe for.
It has a reputation.
It does. It's a strange reputation. I don't understand it. I think actors are creators, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't, and I see Vera as someone who has the right to do whatever she wants. The
Of
whole
course.
concept of like stay in your lane, do what you do, like that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't tell that to your friend who's a plumber who like thinks maybe I want to get into like, pottery. You'd be like, go for it, dude. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah, of course.
what's the problem? I don't get it.
Uh,
And,
I
and and by the way, musicians to actors just don't get no one gives them a hard time.
in fact, they give them a pass when they do something that's at the bare minimum, where it's like, oh my God, you didn't ruin this thing. Look at you. Good job.
Yeah.
You get
I,
accolades.
I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried because I feel like we didn't make a pop record. Like
No.
that would have been
Okay.
cause for, hey, let's roast this shit out of this. You know what I mean? Like we did something really offbeat, in my opinion.
I agree.
And it's true to us, and we paid for it. We have no label. I produced it. We have no management. We have no nothing. Right. And we brought this thing from zero to where it's at. And we're really thrilled with it. And the response has been incredible. The people who have been attracted to it, my only wish is that there's more discovery, but without having
Yeah.
that infrastructure and that money and that machine behind us, People will have to come to it on their own, or it'll be recommendations or whatever. But, we can't afford to just like do the, pay and play thing, with radio stations. We can't do that.
No, and it's radio stations are from my understanding, that's a very specific lane of music. And there's tons of artists that are making a path without that now, where it's
Absolutely.
the gatekeepers are pretty much gone at this point in a lot of ways. That you can do this on, like you said, you're in your basement right now, and this is where you're
Sure.
putting together your record, and it sounds incredible. You wouldn't know that. You would think this was done in just a whatever studio that you were,
Right.
in the city recording.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, your definition of success has to be is different than 25 years ago.
mm,
Like,
true.
is there any money to be made? I don't know. Probably not. Uh, can you make enough to justify continuing to do it? Hopefully. But at the end of the day, does that even matter, right? If it means enough to you to have to do it, to have to write music and to share it with the people who are going to be moved by it, then it might cost you a little bit of money, If
Yeah.
you got to find ways to do it and to do it your way and to be authentic and true to yourself.
I think
Right?
that's the key, the authenticity piece, because there's something that's going to creep at you when you're doing that. If you're putting all this time and effort into something that you don't fully believe in, then
Yeah.
that would be a difficult pill to swallow. But if you love what you're doing and it feels honest and feels like a representation of yourself, then that's not really
Yeah.
work at that point. You're judging it on a different scale, I think.
Absolutely. I've done that with my previous band. We had multiple major label deals,
Yeah.
and I don't want anything to do with that. No part of that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, it was kind of at the time I was young, I was 21 through 20 years old till 29, 30.
Sure.
Uh, and it felt like, oh, at least there's like an adult in the room who is maybe guiding this thing, and they
Sure.
know. At least they fool you into thinking that they know. Nobody knows. They have no idea. They have no idea. Be true to yourself. That's all that matters. Do your thing.
Yeah.
That's what resonates with people. When
Could
you're
not agree
trying
more.
to follow trends and you're trying to like create in a box with it, just sucks. It sucks.
Well, you're gonna.
Some people are really good at it, and some people define it. Like Bruno Mars, right?
Sure.
You know, I don't like listen to Bruno Mars, but like I acknowledge that dude's incredible.
He's undeniable. I mean, yeah, not my taste in music, but if you hear him and think that that's an untalented musician, you're not listening to the music.
Right.
So, like,
But I think he could push boundaries like even
oh yeah,
further if I'm curious to see like, Lady Gaga, like again, I don't listen to her, but man, I have an appreciation for what she's doing.
sure.
God, she figured out the fucking algorithm for success,
Or then even somebody like a Miley Cyrus type who is not my taste, but her voice is one of the most powerful voices. And you hear her doing rock music and you hear her doing standards and, she's a crooner and doing all those things and just jumping from whatever follows her interest at the time. And the success element of it seems to be defined by her level of enjoyment now, not by the singles, which is pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, I love Miley Cyrus. I think she's great.
Yeah.
It's if you try to imagine like where she started to where she's at now, pretty wild, pretty
It was
wild.
so crazy.
But she seems like someone who has to redefine herself every album.
Yeah.
Like she has to like re-earn it, you know?
David Bowie was one of those guys too. It's there are those people that just they have that chameleon. It's okay, I did this thing. Let me go to try on something else now. Jumping from acting to doing a philanthropic project where you're developing a sustainable place to doing music to doing all these things that you're talking about, jumping in between. It's a similar thing where you feel the need as a creative to try on different hats because the one thing there's always going to be that thing driving to taste something new, which I think is important because otherwise you're just eating the same breakfast every day, if that makes sense.
And hats off to the person who needs that and does it. Like, and that's cool for them. Like someone can be like, I'm going to have a 40-year. My mom did that. My mom had a 35-year career in advertising as,
Oh, wow.
a creative director and a writer, in big agencies, did big work. And she loved it. She loved it.
That's great.
Hard for her to let go of, when it was time to retire. But not me, man. I can't do that. I get bored.
Yeah.
Like you know, um, I mean, look, and this album just came out like 2.5 weeks ago, and we're already like, let's just start
Get
writing.
back in.
Yeah. I have a
So
writing session tomorrow, so I'm jumping
I,
right back in.
I know we're over time, but I did want to ask if
Go.
you guys will be touring. Is that something that's going to happen? Because I would love to see you guys play live.
I'm dying. Look, we've only done 2 shows so far,
Okay. How were
and
they?
it's great. It's amazing. Like it's so exciting to well, the first one was wild because it was before the album came out. We only had one single out. We played it upstate New York, kind
Hmm.
of off the beaten path. Yet still there was some hardcore, we call them Yagis, show up, and look, there's a lot of bleed over, obviously, from the genre films and TV shows
Of
that Vera
course.
led to the
Yeah.
music making. So but a lot of them migrated over to being Yaga fans. And we have people flying in from like Puerto Rico, Florida, like
Oh, wow.
driving from Colorado, like meeting these, who were just obsessed based on the snippets of music that we put out. So that's a really exciting thing to share music with people um, who just to affect people's lives,
Yeah.
to make a difference in somebody's life that they're like, that's not just like some weird fandom shit. That's like, wow, that song Crying Room fucked me up, was healing for me, and I need to see more of it and get every piece of that song as I can. I played in a band, I had a band called Deadsy, and
Yeah.
we were, late 90s, early 2000s mostly doing our thing, and in 2006 as well. But a lot of it was opening for huge bands, for audiences that knew none of our music.
Right.
So I know what it's like to stand on stage and have to like, fight for that attention.
Yeah.
Also, I know what it's like, people just like looking at you and taking it in, because it's a very strange experience to be up there playing new music for somebody that they've never heard. They don't know how to dance to it yet. They don't know the words, and they're just kind of staring at you. I know what that is about, you
Hmm.
know. I think it's exciting. You have somebody's attention, you're trying to convert them into being a fan and to showing up for you the next time you come around. Anyways, I found it to be exhilarating and exciting. I love sharing the music with people. And now that the album's out, like, yeah, it would be great because people could, listen along and, to the album and like know our material. That would be really cool. You know, I think I'm circumventing the question, which is, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Fair enough.
Maybe some East Coast tour, maybe a
Okay.
West Coast thing. I always love playing Phoenix.
Come
That
out. Would love to see you guys.
I love it out there. Um, I could see like doing like, little 2 week like
Yeah.
jaunts here and there, maybe some isolated shows overseas.
Sure.
I'd love to go to South America. There's a huge Yagi community in like Brazil and Argentina and Mexico. Um,
Well,
I
you
don't.
can see now where you're popping so much better than you ever could before because of
I know.
Spotify and things. You can be like, well, here's this little pocket in Argentina where we're doing really well. Okay.
Yeah,
Wouldn't have
yeah,
thought, but that's where we should go.
I know. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I do want to get out there. I want to do it. Look, she just wrapped a movie last
Hmm.
week in Hungary. She's prepping for another one right now that she's leaving in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, and then she'll be gone for a month. So maybe something in July, maybe in August. I don't know. I'm itching to get out there and do it though.
I know there's a lot of people that would love to see the band, and you could give that experience to so many people because I think there would be a curiosity of what you were talking about with Deadsy, where people would show up, maybe not having been familiar with the music, and they would say, "Yeah, it's a curiosity. I want to see this because of who the singer is," and then
Sure.
if they're open to it, that they could really have a pretty incredible experience by being turned on to something that's not just
Yeah.
this little project, something that has real heart and authenticity. That it's, one of my favorite experiences as far as live music is when I walk in and I've never heard somebody before and I'm just floored by them.
Yeah.
There's a band called Left Unsaid. They're like a pop punk band, and they played in front of two people. And I was one of them when they played at this little
Yeah.
bar that my friend was bartending at, and they played like there was 50,000 people there.
Yeah.
And so this is one of their first shows, and they built and built and built, and ended up doing, having a career that still goes to this day. But it was one of my favorite shows I've ever been to because of that thing you were talking about, where people just playing and having to earn them over. And they said, well, let's just treat it like band practice. We're just going to crush this thing for two people.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw Nirvana when they were touring Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 40, 50 people. I
Yeah.
never got to see them again in like a big audience. It's wild. My only experience was that. And it was amazing. I was like 15, 16 maybe. Man, I love that. 3 weeks ago, I went and saw Meshuggah. We might have known the name Meshuggah like for 30 years or something. I've never listened to it. My son is an incredible guitar player, so
that's some complex music. It is tough.
Yeah,
They're incredible.
a friend of mine brought me to see the show at Madison Square Garden at the theater. I was blown away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I don't know. I didn't know a single song, not a lick, but like I walked out of there converted. Like, and I walked out of there like, where the fuck am I? Like, I was like, you walk into Times Square after that, the lighting show, and that their lighting is incredible. If I don't know if they're hitting, your area, or if
I've never seen them. I would love to though, because
the lighting is absolutely on the next level.
Yeah. Okay. I will see literally anybody play live, because even music I don't listen to in my day to day, I'm not going to put it on in the car. I'm not going to put on the record at home. But if you can do it live, I can connect to it. Yeah. So
I don't mean to like exclusively highlight the lighting, but I only bring it up because I mean, obviously, look, they are just so tight. It's scary.
Yeah.
The lighting guy, there's no automation. There's a lighting guy, I'm told. He's also a drummer. He's playing, he's jamming, drummer. It's no automation. And all the lighting is it's being played live with the band. It's pretty wild.
So it could be different night to night depending on what it's improvisational. So
yeah.
Wow.
And it's insane.
That's incredible.
I feel like I took acid. I was like, what is going on? It's also funny to watch people try to dance to it, because it's all crazy polyrhythms and strange time signatures, and like somebody's just trying to do a simple, just like bob their head to like 4, and like it's not happening.
No, that type of those unusual time signatures and that stuff. I don't know how musicians can do that and keep their head around it. I am not a musician, and that stuff is on a whole other level that I just can't get my head around. It's very impressive, but Dillinger Escape Plan is one of those bands too that does stuff similar to that, and it's just hard for me to wrap my head around how you could do that and perform it night after night. Like what the math that's going on in your head is just
My son does it. He writes very strange time signatures, but he doesn't know that he's doing it. And I'll be like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "I have no idea."
It just feels natural to him.
Yeah, and he writes like 21-9, and like just to me, it's like it's impossible. It's impossible to follow.
Wow.
You move to it, and it works. And he knows what he's doing, but he certainly isn't counting it while he's playing it. It's all feel. It's all feel.
That's keeping that in your head, and for that feel to be okay. This is where it changes. And then to have that almost, you're not having the 4/4, that cyclical thing that you can just tap your foot to, that's where I'm at. That's what I can play. So when you have multiple time signatures in a song, I'm done. So it's not going to work. Well, maybe a little, but it's not, it's just my mind doesn't work that way for music.
Don't go to Meshuggah show.
No. For playing.
Oh, for playing. Yeah.
Listening to, no. I'm fine with that. No, I enjoy that. So I like it.
We do some interesting mixing in Yagas, where I'll be playing something in 5/4, and the rest of the band's playing in 4/4, and then it does.
You're gonna sync up though every
like what is that, every 20,
right?
But, it comes back to the 1, right? But but no, I don't get like too way off into like the crazy stuff that like Meshuggah does, or my son. But my son's also in 10th grade, and he's doing like quantum physics, and
it's There's something that's so incredible about that moment when you see your kids excelling beyond you. That's I think a lot of parents can be threatened by that, but I'm actually so excited that my kids are both smarter than me, that they're going to do much better things than I ever did, and that just makes me so happy.
Yeah, my daughter also on on the piano. Like it's pretty funny shit, man. She has perfect pitch. I just don't, I just
Right.
have to, takes me a second. I get close, but like I can play something for her one time and she'll play it. I just for the first time.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but like it's amazing at the same time. But like we 2 nights ago, I don't know why, we are driving long drive and we put on Kraftwerk. She had never
okay.
heard of work, and she got a kick out of Trans Euro Express. She was
Uh-huh.
laughing. I don't know why. And last night I said, "Do you remember that song, Trans Euro Express?" And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think you could play it?" And I played it for her. I put it on again, and she immediately played along to it.
Jesus
And
Christ.
and if you listen to it, that like I'm talking about the synth part,
Yeah.
it's going between like fourths and fifths, and but like some of the root notes are like also changing underneath it, and she just hears all of them, and it pisses me off. Like, why can't I do that? Yeah, I have to dissect things, Like, okay, there's the thirds in there, and you know, but it's yeah, it's interesting to watch them excel.
There's people that type of learning, those things are innate for them, that it just comes second nature. I'm somebody that I have to force it into my mind and then force it into my hands, and it takes a long time for that muscle memory to
Yeah.
be gained. And once it's there, it feels very hard earned, and I'm proud of being able to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm the same. I'm the
okay.
same. Nothing comes naturally musically for me. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I hear things in my head quite a bit.
Mhm.
Executing them is some oftentimes challenging for me, especially when I'm writing. We're in the studio and I'll just start, I'll hear a melody, put it down, right? And then I don't remember what I played.
Right.
And when it's time to like learn what the final thing that happened, I have no idea. I have to go back and like dissect my own stuff and listen to it and then prioritize because I often do many layers of keyboards.
Mm.
There's layers of melodies happening and I have to prioritize, well, like what's the dominant one? What are the ones that people are going to expect to hear when we play it live? And I
Yeah.
can't play it all. So
No, that makes perfect sense. But if you're playing live, you're not somebody that would use like backing tracks for those other.
no,
Okay.
no. No. In fact, I gave my bass player he's now doing this Geddy Lee thing where he's playing a synth foot pedal while he's
Okay.
playing. So he's
Wow.
doubling. Yeah, he's incredible. He's just like another level. He's
Yeah.
another one of these guys that pisses you off. Like he has
Yeah.
his masters in the tabla. Like who does that? He plays the double bass, he plays the bass, he plays the
Of
guitar, he
course.
plays the accordion. I mean, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff that he's not told.
That accordion is a rough instrument to learn. That
It's
is
awful. I
super
tried.
weird. It is a hard instrument to get your head around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's very awkward.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that people appreciate that. It's the movement that it takes. It's an instrument that's not appreciated necessarily, but it is a
Yeah.
kind of like the bagpipe. It's something that is very jarring for certain people, but it's a very difficult instrument to play.
It's very and it's a steep learning curve, and to get it to start sounding like something good is
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
Piano, very easy.
Yeah, you
You
can
know?
put two fingers together and find a chord by accident.
Yeah. Yeah. Guitar also, like you learn a lot quickly.
Hmm.
And then boom, 6 months hit, and it's like you just kind of stay where you were,
Yep.
Like the majority of your learning on the guitar happens in the first 6 months. Like,
Well,
once you get past like how painful it is to like build up those calluses when you're a kid,
right.
like forming an A minor chord, like once you know it, right?
You can find it on any guitar in the world in 2 seconds. It doesn't, yeah, there's nothing to that. Once you have that memory, once your hand knows how to do that to go find it, it's no problem. But the people that actually go into music theory and follow that, and you look on YouTube and I watch actual guitar instructors explaining music in a way that things that I don't realize. You hear it and you know there's something to it, but then when you actually have it broken down into why it's having the effect it is, it's fascinating. So I feel like I missed something in my life by not studying that.
Do you look into it or no?
A little bit. I mean, I now I'm thinking about starting to take lessons and doing things like that, just for no other reason than to get better at playing. That's really my
Steve
kind of
Vai
goal.
has like guitar theory, which I think would
Huh.
maybe be more specific to what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like general music theory, great. I mean, I don't know it. I feel it. I don't know it.
Right.
I understand like the relationships between the notes, but I don't know why. Yes,
Right.
Uh, but like my bass player, he can transpose in without thinking about it. He can take a progression and be like, it's not the right key, and he can just boom right away. I can't do that. I'm like, I'll come back tomorrow. We'll tomorrow. I might,
You have to play every chord around it, break down all the roots and what's working, and then it's, oh, this is where it should be. That's how I have to find things.
yeah,
So,
and I'm also very visual. So
mm,
when I'm playing, I need like I these patterns of positioning,
yeah.
really help me. You know, I'm not Stevie Wonder. I can't. Son, I bring my son up, but like, man, he knows exactly where he's at on that soundboard on
Yeah.
at all times, like anywhere. He knows exactly where he's supposed to be.
That's incredible. That's so
Yeah,
incredible. But
yeah.
dude, I know we're way over at this point, but
And by the way, yeah, edit me as needed. I'm
no, no,
very
no. This is legitimately, I've had a blast. This was so much fun. It was really great to meet you. And this has been a, I loved this conversation. This was great. So no, there's no need to edit. This is what I want my podcast to be, just a conversation,
okay.
inspired by great music. So I really enjoyed the band. I really hope that you'll, in a couple months, get on tour, maybe play Phoenix, play Arizona, play California. I'll take a drive to come see you guys because there's a lot of people out there that would want to see you. So I hope that'll happen.
I hope so too. I hope so. I'll let you know.
All right, man. Cool. Well, thank you, Renn.
Thank you so
Dude, it
much.
was great to meet you.
Take your time. Thank you.
All right. Take care, man. All right. Bye bye.